Good day everyone, so let's talk a bit about Sumeru, the region, and give it a bit of a quick review. Obviously on the channel we focused a bit on dendro reactions and obviously the new spiral abyss, so let's give a bit of attention to the actual region that most of us are playing and so on. I must say I do think the region is probably one of the best regions so far, and it's no surprise because this game has made so much money and they obviously now had the resources and manpower that sort of was put into Sumeru, and you can clearly see it. You can clearly see that this region has had so many developers and so many eyes on it, and it really is just so good. It's so fresh. What I love about this region in contrast to Inazuma is the fact that you almost have like this continuous landscape that sort of morphs into like a mushroom field, or now you've got like this big rainforest, or you can clearly see like the desert area in the background, or like a very complicated underground system of caves and so on. It's like really cool. Whereas in Inazuma it almost felt like, well, every island's like a sort of mini map on its own, and it felt very disconnected from all of the other islands. So this is certainly bringing us back to the Leeway feeling, but I do think the Sumeru region is just so much better than Leeway and Mondstadt. So I do hope in the future that they'll patch up those regions, perhaps do like a bit of a graphics update, just sort of change a bit of the coloring in the environment for Leeway and Mondstadt, just to bring it up to the sort of Sumeru standards, because Sumeru just looks so good. It just looks so fresh. There's so many different angles, and I do think like the sunset, day, sort of dawn, whatever, you know, all of the different moods that you can get from the different places really works well. I think they've really hit the nail on the head with the level design. When it comes to exploration, I think the new mechanic is such a must. If they didn't have the new like zip mechanic, I think the region would have been perhaps like a very frustrating region to play, but the new zip mechanic just makes it feel much more alive. It's almost like, you know, you are swinging in the jungle, like Tarzan in the jungle sort of like vibes that you're getting, or like the Spider-Man vibes, as some people have put it, and it's really good. It's such a new mechanic, and when I first played the region, there were lots of lots of puzzles and interesting things that I didn't understand, like what was happening. There were lots of new fresh things, and it's only once you start playing the quests and so on that a couple of things open up to you, and it really becomes like, or a lot of the replayability of certain areas really start like to hit, and that's what I've really enjoyed. I also think the events themselves, in terms of how the events have been integrated with the environment and introducing the environment to you, is probably the best that I've seen in Genshin Impact. Clearly there's been a lot of focus in giving you a bit of consistency between like doing certain events, getting certain materials for your characters, exploring the region, learning what some of the little new mechanics are in the region, as well as giving us like a couple of like fresh variations on the same sort of gameplay loop. So in certain cases, when you go into like new domains, the objectives might have like the same core structure, but how you achieve it is kind of like very interesting. So in one of the domains I had to like beat the Withering to obviously solve like the quest and so on, but to do that I had to sort of first activate a portal, go and get the Dendrogramma, I think that's what it's called, in another domain, then come back and then sort of beat like the Withering, like in a very systematic way. It's stuff like that which is just so cool, just having variation. It's not just like a hash and repeat, which I think is what a lot of Inazuma was sort of guilty of, especially with regards to its puzzles and so on. It just didn't feel as engaging, and we definitely saw a bit of this in the Golden Apple Archipelago, where a lot of the puzzles felt like very fresh between all of the different domains, and I'm very happy that Hoyoverse is sort of like giving us much more interesting and creative ways of tackling domains and puzzles and so on. It really is good. And I think, like, as a final point, let's talk a bit about the Archon quest. I think the Archon quest has definitely been one of the best, and the reason it's been so good is because the world building that you are systematically introduced to is so consistent. Even with Dori and Alhaitham, you slowly learned more and more about the world, more and more about this mystery situation, that's sort of happening in Sumeru. And obviously, once we got to Nahida and the entire sort of loop mechanic, which was like very, very interesting and so on, it felt like they were systematically giving you more and more information. You now finally understand how the Akasha system, I think I hope I pronounced it right, sort of works and so on, how the entire setup in Sumeru is, what are the dynamics, the politics at play, and obviously not everything has been revealed to us, and that is like so cool. So we still don't know what the big picture is, we still don't know what is like truly really happening, and it's going to be so exciting to see what's going to play out in the coming patches. What's the link really with the desert, the Scarlet King, and all of these other characters. So certainly they've laid a very solid foundation for us to sort of keep on playing, and I think the story will probably be like really good. So finally, let's talk a bit about Nahida, the God of Wisdom. I do think she deserves like a title and so on. Certainly all of the analogies and metaphors that she used to sort of explain things to a traveler was like really cool to see, and also to see, well, how rationally she judges herself in terms of where she is currently as an Archon versus where she should be. It's not looking down on herself. It's, if you really listen to what she's saying, she was very much from a rational point of view looking towards like what the gap is between her and what the expectations would be from an Archon. And I think that just sort of shows you the level of maturity that she has. Certainly her character for me is way more interesting than all of the other Archons, and I think that's why I sort of like her personality and character and so on. It's really cool. So yeah, in conclusion, Sumeru really going strong, and tell me what you guys have been thinking about it. I've been having a ton of fun. It feels like a genuine breath of fresh air after all of these weeks of very little content and so on. But that's it guys, thanks for watching.